Gifts. Um, I want to introduce you to programming using Visual Basic, in which we will be using a, a Visual Studio for us to be in a position to write programs in Visual Basic. So we need to know from the beginning how do we navigate as to start application. So obviously, like always, everything starts on the start button. Click the start button, then we navigate to look for the Visual Studio version which you want to use. I will be using Visual Studio 2018. So you navigate to Visual Studio 2018. Right, here it is. Select it. You select the folder, then select the Visual Studio. Since this application is a little bit heavy, so it might take some minutes, sometimes some seconds, sometimes minutes to load, depending with the processing speed of your machine. And the machine which I'm using right now is a dual core, which is also which possesses 8 gig RAM. So its speed is not good for development, but for the learning purposes, it's very good. Right. This is the page, the interface which comes after clicking the Visual Studio. So here we have the start page. It's called the start page. That's where we can start from the new project, or we can open a project from another location. We can open recent projects which were developed or which were created using that Visual Studio. So, but in our case, we want to start with the new project. So click the new project, and we need to give its time for it to load. The interface will come. So it's pointing at Visual Basic, like what we're seeing. But it doesn't mean that this one is for Visual Basic. This is Visual Studio. In Visual Studio, we have different languages. We have the likes of the Visual Basic, we have C Sharp, we have Visual C++, we have Visual F Sharp, we have, those are some, even Python is also there. It's, the languages will be many depending with the version which you're using. If you're using Visual Studio 2022, you will see that it has got several languages which you will choose. But this one is 2030, which is lightweight. That's why I chose to use this one so that we can learn, we can have a good introduction to programming, so that you will not hate programming. Because if you could have used the Visual Studio 2022, probably could be still on the first page. Probably the start page could have not yet loaded. It will be still loading because it's a little bit heavy for a machine like this one. So here we have what we call, we have talked about the languages. We have the .NET, because Visual Studio works with the .NET framework. So we have versions of .NET frameworks. So the ones which you are seeing, starting from 2.0, 3.0, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 4.5.1, 4.5.2, 4.6, 4.6.1, 4.7.2, 4.9. Those are the frameworks. So it's like Visual Studio, Microsoft, in other words, wanted to create a better competition with the Oracle, that is the Java. Because the Java, they put their slogan, which they say, write once and run anyway, water. So it's like their programs will be written once and can be run anyway, meaning so that they will be platform independent. So which Microsoft wanted also to take a leaf from that. That's why they produced this .NET framework. If you go back to the history of these languages of Microsoft, that the Visual Basic to be in particular, we used to have the classic Visual Basic, which was which was not a .NET, which did not run on the .NET framework. So that classic was platform dependent, meaning that when you compile the application, you will compile it and target a specific operating system. But with the .NET framework now, you can compile it and may run at any type of operating system, depending or having the .NET framework which was targeted being present on the machine or being present on that operating system. Means that this one now acts as the Java virtual machine, because the Java virtual machine is the interpreter for Java. But this one now is not an interpreter. It will perform what we call just-in-time compilation. Because this language, the .NET languages, when you compile them, when you run or you debug or you build, to be in particular, when you build your application, it will compile to what we call Microsoft Intermediate Language Code. So that Microsoft Intermediate Language Code will be further compiled using the .NET framework now. The process known as just-in-time compilation. So you need to know the framework which you are targeting. You can see that here it was targeting EView 4.5, and I will leave it at 4.5. But it doesn't mean that you need to target 4.5. Sometimes you might even target the higher .NET framework. But know to it that when you target that higher .NET framework, when you want to run your application, that version must be present on the machine which you want to run your application, right? So from there, we also encounter the types of project. So since we are on the entry level, we are trying to introduce this animal which is called programming. But some people call it an animal, but though it's not an animal anymore. It's one of the most interesting areas to learn. It's one of the easiest areas to learn if you master the rules which govern its it's like the rules of the game. If you master the rules of the game, then the game becomes very exciting. But if you fail to master the rules of the game, then it will be something troublesome or problematic for you to even follow. Even if you're not playing, even following a game, if you don't master the rules, then it might become a challenge for you to follow the game. So you need to master the rules of programming. Anyway, the types of application which we have the Windows Forms application. Let's go to the Windows Presentation Foundation. We have the console application. We have the .NET ASP.NET Web application for creating those web applications. We have the class library portable. Those are the list. But for us, since we are starting, we are going to start with the console application. So if you go down here, you have the name, you have the console application, that is the name, console application A, then the location. You choose the location where you want to keep your application. Then the solution and the name. Those are solution name and the name. Those are two different aspects. The solution name is the name of the whole solution. In a solution, you can have several projects. So the name is the name of the project. Then solution name is the name of the solution. That is the container for all the projects. Those who can have several projects in one solution. But we are not going to confuse you by putting different names there. So I'm going to put the same name. Let's say this is example 1. introduction. This is the name. You see that I'm not putting spaces because we will talk about variable names or naming variables, the conventions which are used when you're naming the variables. They state that it must be one of them. Right. From there, you need to choose the location. You click browse, you'll be able to choose the location of where your project will be saved to. So you can change it. Right now it's pointing at A level VB, but I want to change it from that one so that you might see that what I'm talking is something which is very practical. I want to create a new folder inside that is drive C. This new folder I call it Introduction to Programming. Introduction to Programming. Right, enter. Then you select this folder. And you see that it's now pointing at the folder Introduction to Programming. So after this, you need to click what? OK. You need to click OK. OK. It's OK. Right. So after clicking OK, it will also load. So you need to give it some to load application. It's loading, and it might be loading some namespaces. We'll talk about what is the namespace. Right, almost there. And this is a console application. So a console application, we are much worried, we're much concerned about the coding environment because a console application, anyway, you need to know that this is an application which we develop, and after developing it, when the user wants to interact with that application, the user will be making use of a command line or text-based interface. That is the one which the user will be using. So it's not a graphical user. We are not developing a system which or an application which uses graphical user interface. No, our application will be using a command line interface. So that's why we are much worried about the code, and of course here the solution explorer. Yes, sometimes you might want to name some commands. It's now loading some assemblies to both the materials assemblies to the fine. So okay, let us give it time for it to load, because if we don't give it time, it will not work according to what we want. Right, 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 right. Want to get another escape window. This window we want to add here, like this one to box. I just want to make our code to be on the center so that you can see. Right, let me try to increase the percentage. I will increase the percentage to 120. Right, so that you can see. Right, what you are seeing right now is program code module 1 sub main and sub end module. This one is the module 1 which you are seeing here. So when you want to rename this position, you need to come here on the Solution Explorer. You right click, select the rename. Right click, select rename. So you give the name here from intro program. Right. You press enter. So it depends with the machines. Some will automatically apply, but this one will ask you whether you want to rename the file and also perform renaming in the project of all references to the code element module 1. If you click yes, it will apply the renaming to the what? To that module 1. Right. We will talk about that one. Then there is another uh, element which I want to put above there. That is import system dot console. The system dot console. The word imports on itself. It normally instructs this compiler to include in this file that namespace system. But in this case, it's not ending on the namespace system. It is pointing to the word to the pointing to the class console. So the class console is a shared class. This one is a shared class. It represents the standard input output like what you are seeing right now in error streams for console application. So a shared class now is a class in VB. When defined, it will be used with the name it was defined for. It is different from an instance class, because an instance class, when you want to use it, you need to define an object of that type. That's how it differs from the shared class and the instance class. As we will continue with our lessons, you will get to know, you will even be in a position to create your own classes, the shared classes, instance classes. Right. Then this one, I said it's a namespace, and like what you're saying, the name. A namespace is just like a folder. It contains classes. It's a folder which will be containing classes. So for you to access a class inside a namespace, you need first to point the namespace or to name that namespace so that we know, the compiler knows where to fetch the class. That's why we say import system. But we don't want the namespace system. We want the console. That's why we say import system dot console. Right. Then the module. Our code must be in between the module and the module. That's where our programs must be enclosed in between the module and the module. Then we encounter another element, that is sub main and sub. This sub main, normally that's where the executable part will be placed. What am I saying? I said you can write our codes between those boundaries, module and module. But what will be run when you run, what will be executed by the application is the code which will be between main, submain, and end sub. Meaning to say that you can write whatever you want to write outside the submain, but you need to call it inside the submain for it to be executed. That's what I'm saying. Right. Because of our time today, I understand we start a little bit late because we need to stop. We're supposed to finish our lesson by 10 to 8. But anyway, we need to just have a test of writing a program. Right. So I might even write some of the codes which you might not understand. Don't worry. This is the first lesson. You get to know it the meanings of some of the codes when we proceed with our lessons, right? So when we want to declare, we use the word dim, and that one shows that declares and allocates storage space for one or more variables. So whenever I want to declare a variable, it's like whenever you want to use a word for a certain memory, we call it, that word is called a variable name. So that variable name must be declared so that when you run your program, it will know that this word is representing this element or this item, sort of. Right. So our program here, we want to write a program that will accept two numbers and add the numbers and display the result. Was most introductory programming lesson starts by displaying the word hello world in the on the screen. That's what I want to do. I started by just writing a simple program that will accept two numbers and add them and display the output on the screen. Right. So we need to declare the first number, which I'm calling num1, declare the second number, which I'm calling num2. Then we need to display the result, where we are going to store our what? Our number. And we are assuming that our numbers will be whole numbers. So we need to select the what? A problem. Might use integer. Because integer is for integrals, whole numbers only. Right. Then we need to prompt the user to enter the first number. We prompt the user to enter the second number. So say the right line, because the right line is a method of the console class. So we need not to repeat console.writeLine, but we say writeLine, then it's enter any number and press enter. Right. Then this is an instruction which we are giving to the user. So the user will saw the instruction and the user must enter any number and press the enter key. Let us put here in uppercase so that the user knows that this is an enter key. Right. So we need now to take whatever has been entered by the user. We are assuming that the user is going to enter a whole number. We are assuming that the user is going to enter a number, not any, because we are not validating. Talk about validation as we move on. Right, you can say convert dot to int 32, since this one is an integer, then reply. Right, this statement convert to int 32. It's like we are casting, we are changing, because this read line, it returns a string, because it's saying it's a public shared function of the what, of the console class, and returns a what, returns a string, but we have declared this as an integer. The num1 is an integer, so it's like you want to carry water in a sack. Yes, water can be carried in a sack, but you need to convert it from its liquid form to a solid form. Then you put it in a sack. You can carry it easily without any problems. But if you want to carry it in its liquid form in a sack, then you are doing something wrong. You will be the trouble. You will be the problem, right? So from there, we need to prompt the user to enter the second number. So we cannot continue, right? So you're supposed to say first number, enter first number, then you change here, right? Second number, you press enter. Right, then you change here again. When you have, because programming is all about copying and pasting, like what I did. And but you have to know how to, what to copy and how to copy and how to paste it and where to edit and how to edit it. That's very necessary. Right, now perform the calculation. That is result equals to, say, the num1 plus num2. Right, here after this we need now to display the output, because the user has entered the number, press enter, enter the second number, press enter. Now we want to display So we want to show it using that, like say num1 plus num2, num1 plus, let's say the user enters 1 and 3. Is to display that 1 plus 3 equals to 4. So that's what we want, display in that manner. Right. So you say num1, num2, then result. Then we put the read key. This read key is only put so that we can see our application or our program running before stopping. We need to see the output. But in Visual Studio 22, this read key now is no longer valid because it will even just wait. I don't know the way they coded it. It's now waiting until you press any key. Right. So I'm now running. So I use that start button to run our application. So it will be building. If it's successful, if there are no errors, it will compile successfully. Then it will run. So that start is like a building, and at the same time you are building and running it. What you're supposed to build, then you run. Right. Saying enter first number and press enter. So let's say the user enters 12 and press enter. Enter second number and press enter. Then I entered probably the user enters 8. Right. Then say 12 plus 8 equals to 20. Wow. It's running. Yes. That's programming. That's an introduction to programming. So I understand. I know you have a lot of questions. That what is meant by the right line, what is meant by the converted to. Of course, some of the terms I explained them, but I did not get into the nitty gritties of those terms. So, on our next lesson, we'll be starting by describing those terms, the right line, the read line, read key, so forth and so forth. I think if you enjoyed the lesson, don't forget to subscribe.